and welcome to another edition of the Peak and First podcast. My name is Josh, and I get the absolute pleasure of serving as the online ministries director here at Peak and First.
Well, hello, everyone. My name is Sean, and I am the pastor here at Peak and First.
And this is, again, the Peak and First podcast, and this is episode 32, and it is called Don't Let Life Frustrate Your Faith. So just a little bit, I tend to use stories out of my week, just to hopefully somebody relates to them and finds relief in them.
Yeah. I think some people will need to hear this one today.
Yeah. So you having a good week?
Yeah, I'm having a pretty good week. My highlight this week was yesterday. My son, I have one son, and whom I'm well pleased, and he turned 29 yesterday. It was his birthday, and even though I didn't get a chance to be with him, we spoke on the phone briefly, and in fact, I called him after work, and I could tell that they were already somewhere where there was a lot of noise and a lot of happening going on. They're in Nashville, so it could have been anywhere. In fact, they were, after a while, I discovered they had gone to their favorite little cocktail place that they go, and then he and his girlfriend went out and had a nice dinner and all. But we had a nice conversation, and we're going to get a chance to see the kids and my parents here in a couple weeks when we go to Florida all together. But happy for him. He's doing really good in life, and we're blessed. You know, both of our kids have turned out well, and love them both, and just proud dad.
Awesome. So that was, we do this week's personal best. So that was Sean's
I
personal
just jumped
best.
ahead there.
Absolutely. Yeah. My personal best this week was yesterday was my anniversary.
Yeah.
Me and Zen have been together quite a while. We won't discuss how long, because then it puts an age on everybody.
Probably not 29 though, because I was just thinking if my son was born 29 years ago and you guys were married 29 years ago, that would have been pretty cool. But we won't. Probably didn't work out.
No, we've been married 3 years. So just a great day. Honestly, anniversaries are nice and special and stuff like that. But number 3 is it's okay. We've been down this road before. So we didn't realize it till yesterday morning when we got up and we're like,
that it was your anniversary?
Today's our anniversary. Both of us. So I didn't get dinged for forgetting, right? Yeah. And then I brought home plants, right?
Yeah.
I don't get her flowers. She is not a flower person.
Yep.
She is a plant person.
Same.
Yeah.
Now, see, I would have an excuse to forget ours, which was 33 years this last year, but not 3. You gotta remember that one.
Well, and it went both ways, so that was cool. I was
you're right.
like, okay,
you're right.
it's been a week, and that was a nice thing, nice break to have.
Yeah.
So it was a great day. All right, this is episode 32, and it is called "Don't Let Life Frustrate Your Faith." So this is it has to do with my week. We always wonder why aren't things going our way? Why are people constantly letting us down? Why are we always the one doing all the work? And you got to notice the key words in those statements, and that is, do people seem to constantly let you down? Do you seem to be the one doing all the work?
Right.
Things aren't going your way, right? So it's so when things don't seem to be going our way, it's so easy to lose faith and think that God is not present. Could it be that we're just losing our focus? What would happen if we just focused on God's plan, right? So it's story time. I'm gonna tell a little story. And how frustration played in my life this week. This Tuesday was the day of the cracking Josh, is what I call it. And that is one of those days that everybody has every once in a while when things just don't seem to add up all day long. And you crack, right? I was toast. It was hot, number one, which I don't mind the heat so much, but it just added fuel to the fire. So Tuesday, for those of you who don't know what I do, what I call from my other job, is I manage property, and sometimes the things that you have to do managing property does not feel very Christian. Meaning I had to do an eviction, and which is a horrible thing to do. However, I've consulted a lot of pastors and faith leaders on this, and they're like, well, there's a difference of having compassion and getting taken advantage of.
Yeah.
So I'm like, okay, so justified, sure. And so we did an eviction. This was Monday, actually. We did the eviction. And it's a horrible thing to do, especially when it's 95 degrees. This house was particularly not sanitary. So we finished the eviction, did our thing, come back the next day, and by state law, I have to remove anything that is not actually by city code, I have to remove anything that has not been removed because it creates a nuisance and so on and so forth. So we showed up to throw everything. We have a dump trailer we bring, and we just throw everything that's on the yard. We have to throw it away. We have given things before. Out of this particular situation, we weren't about to give anything away, but we have had like Habitat come in or somebody come in and get the things that are good and take them away. So we were throwing them away, and the neighbor apparently knew this lady and stood on the driveway and berated me, not my employees, which was good. And usually I have pretty thick skin, but berated me for 30 minutes straight while we were doing this in the heat. I like to think that I'm a pretty good person and that I do things for the right reasons, but this one got to me, and it took me down. It took me down, but it took me down a notch. And so I had that happen. So I was kind of in a funk with that all day, and usually I can pull myself right back out of that. But then, of course, the snowball started, and just things started happening. I was at an investment property I have, and I was working there pretty late at night, not late at night, 7, 8 o'clock at night. And I'm there working, and things aren't going right there. I had made 3 trips to Menards in an hour. Because I would get back to the apartment, you forgot such, and then you forgot such. And then my wife calls, and the pool had busted a line, and I lost half the water out of the pool.
Oh, no.
So just one of those days, right?
Yep.
And you go, man, God, why is this happening to me? And so I was driving home and didn't listen to the radio. I was driving home from Washington to Pekin and took the back roads, the country roads. And it was just amazing how God started to show himself to me in the sunset that was happening, the storms in the distance that were happening, and I just, you just got to stop a minute and say a prayer for God, show me, why am I trying to do this my way? Why am I not following your way? And things happen for a reason. God will bring you through a storm. And I can hear you saying it in my head, right? Is God's going to bring you through this because of what's on the other side. He's teaching you something or preparing you for something. I can hear you saying that. So that was my day. And it was just a day like that. And it took a lot of prayer to come out of it.
Yeah. And,
God saying, it's my plan, not yours.
Yeah. Wow. I mean, we all have those days, we all have those days, and it never feels like anybody else has the day that we've had, like our day is the worst of them all. But I'm so grateful that you had the opportunity to just have that time of prayer. Not everybody is able to do that, to stop and pause and just say, all right, I don't know what I believe right now. I don't know how I'm feeling right now other than I'm frustrated and I'm spent and I'm done. But God, if you are listening in any way and can say anything or do anything, I would really appreciate that right now. I think sometimes we get this idea of prayer in our head, like it's got to be holy and we got to say all the right words. And sometimes just letting it out, hollering at God. You ever see the movie The Apostle? You ever heard that one?
I have not.
Robert Duvall, very interesting movie. I don't suppose I'm recommending this movie right now because I think it's probably rated R, but it was a fascinating take on a preacher, a man who is a preacher, but there's this one scene where he's in his upstairs in his room. And he's yelling at God, yelling. And he's at his mom's house, and his mom's downstairs sleeping. And he's upstairs yelling. And the next door neighbor calls, and she picks up the phone. And she's like, yeah. And she says, what's going on over there at your house? Sounds like there's a madman. And she says, well, that's just Sonny. Sometimes he talks to God. Sometimes he yells at God. And tonight he's yelling at God. And, I mean, that's real. That's honest. And I love how you, particularly on this podcast, are able to share honestly, authentically, transparently with our listeners what's going on in your life, And I think that's so important and so necessary for people right now. They need to hear people who identify as Christian, who identify as followers of Jesus, who say, my life is not perfect. Things suck sometimes, and days suck sometimes, and I figure out how to maneuver through that because of my faith, because of my love for Jesus, and I don't always get it right, but most often, almost always, if I'm willing to be open to allow God to come, God will come and speak to my heart and bring some healing to me, and that's the key, because otherwise all we're trying to do is bear all the weight ourselves. We take it out on each other. We take it out on ourselves through addictions and through other things. Man, if we could just simply turn it over to God and just say, I'm letting this go. I'm not going to take this on myself. I'm not going to allow it to affect my life or the life of my family or my friends. God, I need you to take this. And that's a guaranteed prayer request. He always will take it.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And as you were saying that, it took me back to, you said, sometimes our lives just, sometimes it sucks. Sometimes you have to go through something to get somewhere.
Yeah.
And when I was getting berated, as the neighbor was standing in her driveway, it was awful. It was just like, every time I think about it, it affects me. But as I'm doing it, the most Christian thing that I could have done in that situation was not respond, right? Because it would have been so easy to start something. It would have been so easy to fire back at her. It just would have been so easy.
Yeah.
And the most Christian thing that I felt I could do at that moment was not respond.
Yeah.
And just try to let it go. Right. So that, and even when the pool pump busted, I wanted so bad to be angry at someone.
Right.
And quite honestly, it would have probably been my wife on the other side, right? Because I was on with her with the phone.
And she's the closest to you. Yeah.
Correct. And the pool was her idea. It was our idea, but she's the one that said, I want this place for our children. I want the pool. My mind goes back to that, and that what does that do? What good does that do? It's zero. Number one, I'd probably be sleeping on the couch. Right. Number one, and number two, it's misplaced anger.
Yeah, and I think a lot of times we, as Christians, we say things like, well, think about the way Jesus did it. And I know for a lot of people, it's like, dude, come on. I'm not Jesus. I can't. But sometimes to think about the way that Jesus dealt with things. I mean, when he was being mocked and tortured and spit upon and ridiculed, he said nothing. He went through it. He trusted his Father that he was going to pull him through it. You're right. I mean, sometimes just bearing it and being willing to keep our mouths closed and to move forward in faith and trust, knowing that God is going to redeem you through the process. And I think it's going to make an impact on the other person as well, because what the expectation is from a person who is berating you like that is to have you fire back at them so that they can fight. They want to fight. And it makes people really mad, even more mad when you don't right. say anything. I think Paul talks about heaping burning coals on their head, by not responding in anger towards someone else. It's we're not intending to do that, but it's the right thing to do. It's hard. It's really hard.
It's really hard.
Yeah.
So this led me to that night, Tuesday night. I was had showered and kind of calmed down for the night. And what was nice was by the time I took that drive and prayed and after I got out of the shower, I tend to because of my faith story. And if you don't know my faith story, there's a section on our website that has faith stories. Because of my faith story, I look at myself in the mirror and go, is this who you want to be? Or you ask yourself certain questions. And my question to myself looking in that mirror was, is this anybody's fault in this house? And it wasn't, right? And is it worth it to get riled up? And when I come in the door, I really hadn't said much, and Zena knew what had happened. I had been communicating with her throughout the day, so I didn't say much when I came in. I said, I'm going to get in the shower, and that was it, right? And when I came back up, I was good. Not good, but I was better. So when we were going to bed that night, I was on my phone, and I'm like, I'm so frustrated. Why am I letting the frustration play with my faith, interrupt my faith?
Yeah.
So staying focused on God and how we can focus on God's plan. There's a couple ways that we can do this, and I did a little research yesterday. After Tuesday, I needed some personal Bible study, so this is the way I do a lot of my personal Bible study is I start reading scripture and research some of this stuff. And one of them is trust. Trust that everything that you're going through is preparing you for what God has in store for you later. And that's where I hear you in my head, right? Prayer. I hope that gives you something that I can hear you in my head.
It does. It's sort of creepy, but it does make me feel good. So
prayer. Find peace in prayer with asking God to show you a way and help you let it go. I say that a lot. I say that a ton. Gratitude. Never forget to look around for what you have and be thankful for God for what you have. That's one of the things that when I was looking in that mirror, man, look at everything that you have. There's no reason to be this burnout, this angry at the situation.
Sandra and I always say to each other, it could be worse, and we think about all the ways that people are suffering and struggling all around the world. And again, that's cliched, but it works sometimes when you pause and you just think, okay, what I'm going through right now compared to what these folks are going through in the Middle East or these folks are going through over here, it puts things in perspective.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Avoid anger. Take a breath, pray, walk for a minute. Yeah. Letting anger in will only make it worse. And that is one of the things that when I was reading the statement that came to my mind, and one of the best things I've heard is nothing ever good comes from an angry mouth. Yep. Nothing. So, just take a minute and remember God's promise, hope, and love. Mm-hmm. Love for everyone. Mm-hmm. One of the things I did want to touch on was, we talked about gifts this weekend, and I feel that one of my gifts is a lot of people say, I need to get control of this. I need to get control. And I think one of my gifts is, yes, saying that, being the control freak that I am, but taking what God has given me and maximizing its potential. Mm-hmm. I know I don't have control over it, but He does give us certain things to try to maximize while we're here.
Sure. Yeah. That's good. A lot of times our spiritual gift of leadership plays itself out in an area of control sometimes, because leaders want to lead, but leaders want to be moving forward and driving things, and sometimes control gets in the way of that. So being able to control that tendency to control everything makes us better leaders.
Absolutely. All right. So if you're feeling a little frustrated this week, and a lot of people don't deal with the heat well. And it creates a boiling pot, right? That's about to explode. Yeah. If you're there, just stop for a minute and say a prayer or come to church. just take a minute, sit in the air, and be with God.
Yeah.
And it online, sit in your living room, watch it online. There are plenty of your sermons out there. There are plenty of online worships that you can go back and watch. We go live on Sunday morning, so just take some time and decompress a little bit.
Worship music too. I mean, if you're a music person, if you have a local Christian station, or if you have Spotify or Apple iTunes, whatever you like to use for your music, get your favorite worship band out there and just play some worship music. Sometimes that's the most calming, soothing thing that you can do, and it gets you in the right frame of mind by listening to those words from those songs. Gosh, man, there's one that we've been singing here a lot lately, and it's that one where it says, I sought the Lord, and he heard, and he answered. I sought the Lord, and he heard, and he answered. That's why I trust him. That's why I trust him. I love those words. And just to keep those in your mind, I sought the Lord, and he heard, and he answered. And that's the promise. Yeah.
Absolutely. We have also, if you like Christian music and you want to hear a sampling of our band, I do have, we do have some of our covers of some of those on our website or on our app, so you can listen to it in your car.
Or you can come at 10 o'clock on Sunday and hear them live, man. That's the best way to do it.
That's right. That's right. We have a new sermon series, speaking of. We have a new sermon series starting this week.
We do. And actually, everything we've been talking about today feeds into this first sermon in some wonderful ways. We're going to do a sermon series called Words of Life, looking at the 10 Commandments through the eyes of Jesus. And I'm really excited about this. It's going to take us through the summer, but we're going to go back to that old, ancient, dusty document called the 10 Commandments and say, is it relevant? And are these things, are they meaningful to my life today? And I'm going to say, yes, they absolutely are. God gave them to us, and God still wants us to return to them. But when we see them through the lens of Jesus, it really makes a huge impact. So this week, we're going to look at number 1, which is simply this: you will have no other gods before me, or beside me, however you want to translate that Hebrew word, before me or beside me. And in other words, there's so many things that compete for our gods in our lives, like our anger, like ourselves. We make ourselves our own gods. So everything we've been talking about today is so relevant to what we're going to talk about on Sunday. So I hope you might join us for this series. It's going to be a lot of fun.
Awesome. All right. And then we have VBS going on July 28th through August 1st. You can register right on our website. There's a QR code that you can hit up. And it's all about race cars this year.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And there may be a couple of special surprises coming. We'll see what happens there. We also have Bible studies on Wednesday night at 6 p.m. here at Pagan First. And that one is actually held here in the downstairs and online. So if you would like to have that web address,
Teams link,
Teams link, that's what it is. Teams link. Man, I just couldn't get it out. Teams link, you can contact Geraldine in the office. She can get that to you. And we have a youth meeting coming up June 29th at 6 p.m. Pastor Sean is going to lead that. We're going to kind of get a direction on what the youth program looks like, and just ideas. And we are very much an open-minded church, so we want to hear what everybody has to think, so that we can go the right direction for everyone.
Yeah, if you're a youth parent or youth grandparent, or you have a teenager that you'd love to have them maybe get involved in the youth program, but come this Sunday night, 6 o'clock. We're just going to have a conversation around the future of the youth group and what that looks like and what God wants to do with it.
Absolutely. And if you're interested in leading that group, contact speters@peganfirst.org, and he will be happy to talk to you. Pegan First, here is a big marker for Pegan First. We are going to be 200 years old next year. And so we have a committee that's working on events and a logo and all the things. So that is coming. Is it this week or next week? They're going to have the Penny Wars.
It'll start this week, the first of July, first weekend of July.
weekend
So
of July.
next weekend, yeah, we'll be deciding on our logo, and you'll have an opportunity to put your penny or pennies in to help us choose which logo we're going to use for our 200th bicentennial anniversary celebration.
All right, and we'll do more on that on the Monday update. We're going to start the Monday update back up this week. We're going to put it on a podcast. You can listen to it on your way to work on Monday morning. We're also taking donations for Timber Creek Nursing Home starting not this week, starting the first weekend of July as well.
That one, I think, might be this weekend. I think the boxes are going to be out this weekend. They may already be out there now. She's going to start collecting this weekend, yeah.
All right. So donations for Timber Creek, I'm actually going to put a list on our website of things that we need to get to Timber Creek. We did this ministry, we've done it a couple times. Once or twice this year, I think.
Yeah.
And it's just a great thing to help those in need that are older.
Yeah.
So, All right. I think that's all I have for this week. Sean, you got anything?
Hey, if this resonated with you, like we say every week, if you're listening, maybe you don't even know why you tuned in to listen, but you did, and it touched your heart in some way. Maybe you're frustrated today. Maybe you're just struggling with anger, or you don't know why things are happening in your life. I pray that this podcast was helpful to you, and I pray that right now you'll just stop and say a little prayer and just ask God to come and to give you his presence and his peace in your life. And when you pray that prayer, it's guaranteed God will show up, and it'll change your life.
Awesome. All right. Well, remember, God put us here to do great things. So let's go do great things.